All right, Jay, what kind of demon do you want? Ice, fire, biblical, standard, or any?
I'm going to go standard.
Okay, standard. You got a regular name. You are Darius. Darius, son of Abaddon.
Darius, son of Hootie. Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, the show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Wellington Paranormal. Wellington Paranormal went 25 episodes over 4 seasons, originally on TVNZ2. Today we're going to be talking about episode 1, which was called Demon Girl, originally airing July 11th, 2018. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me as always, the boys. Well, some of the boys, Ferg and Nick. Gordo and Joe can't be here. What's going on, guys?
Heyo.
Right now I'm chasing an acrobatic housewife through the streets.
All right, so before anything, happy October, everyone. We're doing second year in a row, Halloween block. So for every Thursday in October, we're going to have a paranormal, Halloween-y, something sci-fi-ish show to go along with the entire month. So that's why we're starting with this one. But Ferg, to get into it, you kind of picked it, even though we kind of do communal picks for this month. Anything that drew you to Wellington Paranormal?
I randomly saw an ad for this on HBO Max, and then I found out it was a spinoff of What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, like the movie, though.
The two main... Well, the movie's the same universe as the show. And then the two main characters in this, Monroe and... what's the other one's name?
O'Leary?
They pop up in the movie. In the movie What We Do in the Shadows. So I watched it and then quickly binged the entire series.
Are they cops in it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We did What We Do in the Shadows last October, so be sure to go and check that episode out. But as far as this goes, I know this show takes place in New Zealand, and I don't know if I caught that at the time. They were in America in the TV show. Does the movie originally take place in New Zealand?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie. I should probably watch that soon.
The other, because I know it's a different cast in the movie, right? As far as the versus the show, where they
It's Taika Waititi, Jemaine Clement, and somebody. I forget the other guy.
I know Taika Waititi is, but is Jemaine Clement also from New Zealand?
He's the other vampire in the movie too. But I don't know. I don't know that much about him. I just know he's hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was interesting when I was starting to watch this and then look it up is the main characters, Minogue and O'Leary, and even the Sergeant Maka. Those are all their real names.
It's all the same last names, and that's because
not Maka though. Maka, that's his first name. Maka Poatu. I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm butchering it.
When they wrote the show, they realized the day of shooting that they didn't have names. So they said, "What should we call ourselves?" And Jemaine Clement said, "You know what? Use your surnames. They sound copish." And that's how they got those. Well, that's how they ended up with their names.
Interesting oversight to not give the characters names.
Oops. But I was looking at it, I'm like, that's bizarre, because then I'm looking back and I'm like, they're not the creators of the show or the writers. And usually you'll see that kind of stuff in that situation. So it's like, why did the main characters get to keep their names if they're just random actors that were hired? But I'm glad you had some insight on that. And just to be sure, you guys not seen this beforehand?
No, I never even heard of it.
This year is when I started watching. So a few months back.
All right, so you have seen, did you watch all of it?
I haven't finished the new season, which came out recently.
Yeah, and that was the final season, right? 4 seasons, it's over. There was talks of a 5th, but I guess ultimately they decided to end it here.
Yeah, I mean, unless it takes off on HBO Max, you never know. But as of now,
all right, so let's just get right into the episode. So it starts with O'Leary. To go back, there's 2 cops, like we said, Minogue and O'Leary. O'Leary is the female, Minogue's the guy. I don't know much about their involvement in the original movie, but those are the 2 main characters in this show, at least.
It's just the quick cameo. It's not even like, you wouldn't even be like, these guys need a movie. It's
right.
Nothing.
So it starts, and this is also it's a cops type show. It's that kind of film to be mockumentary style. So it's very much like, it starts like with cops that you see a camera kind of roaming with O'Leary as she's walking down the streets. And I guess they had a call about a young girl that was like left behind. She thought maybe her friends left her or something like that, and she's going to, assist her. And then you walk up and this girl is clearly demonic. At first I thought it makes sense. The episode's called Demon Girl, but I thought she was a zombie the first time I saw her.
Demon, zombie, I mean, we know how zombies become zombies, but once they're there, they're pretty similar to demons.
I don't know, demons are intelligent. They have powers usually.
What's interesting? The show made me think of, obviously it has the feel of What We Do in the Shadows, but because of the cop nature of it, I also got and then I thought about like one of the oldest that you don't really think about mockumentaries is Reno 911.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of that vibe.
Very similar.
It's Reno 911 with paranormal aspects to it, but Reno 911 was out like before The Office and Parks and Rec and stuff like that, and you never really hear about it as like one of the. I mean, I feel like Reno 911 never really got a huge headwind for some reason. Like the show's hilarious, but it never
It was like popular enough to stay on TV, and it had like a following, but yeah, it never really blew up.
Well, I think that's like a product of Comedy Central. Like Comedy Central shows never like explode. You know what I mean?
No,
they
I
just
don't know. Chappelle Show, even
South
Mind
Park.
Dementia, they had South Park.
Dave Chappelle is a bit of a enigma.
Well, right, yeah, but South Park, yeah, there's a lot of shows that blow up, and like go
South
into the
Park.
mainstream. But yeah, you never saw a lot of merch.
One is huge. They still put out episodes and people watch
but
them,
I mean,
like, from time to time.
You don't see people like you don't see people posting like Reno 911 memes very often, or
right?
wear
You don't see
shirts
people
of them.
quoting it.
Yeah. It does. It hasn't like. It's like right up there, but it never really crossed that like one extra boundary into like extreme pop culture.
Yeah, I think if it just came out today, I bet you it would be a bigger show.
I gotta look it up and see. When do you think Reno 911 started?
We were definitely in school.
I'm thinking like
we were in school.
Yeah, I'm thinking like right around 99 or something like that. If I was to take a guess,
no, it's actually 03.
Okay.
But so later than I thought, I would have guessed probably 01 if I didn't know already. But yes, I mean, I think The Office came out in 04, which was like the revolutionary mockumentary. And I can't think of anything before or in between those two. So I think.
Well, not before, but you know what? The vibe it gave me was it was almost to me it was a mix of like the two Simon Pegg big movies. Originally, it was like Shaun of the Dead meets Hot Fuzz in a way.
Yeah, I mean, even Hot Fuzz had a paranormal aspect to it.
Yeah, that's true. It kind of like came into play later on in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I kind of got a little bit of that, and it's that whole mockumentary style though that I guess really drives it to give you that like Reno 911 vibe.
Yeah, and it's just like the aloof officers too. Like it's not people who are necessarily good at their jobs. You know what I mean? But they're still being followed anyways. And like that's kind of the point of the mockumentary, which is where the similarity I think is the most.
I just love how, like, no matter how crazy things get, how by the books they stay.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite things about it.
But yeah, so as O'Leary's walking, we see this demon. She's like this young, I don't know, let's say 12-ish, year old girl. And she just starts like throwing up, and it's projectile, like kind of green slime type
Circa Exorcist.
Yeah, it's very typical, projectile demon vomit.
And it's going on comedically long. Like it's going on and on and on. And
at one point they're just like, yep, let it out.
Yeah. She plays it very straight. I mean, they play all of this very straight. It's a very dry style humor that they approach this with, which aids itself to this style of show, right? Well, if you're going to do that cop type show.
That was what was kind of interesting to me too, was they're just that dumb that they didn't understand that this is something supernatural happening. Or if they're used to it, like if it already exists in this universe. Well, no, and then we come to find out that it does already exist, but they didn't know about it.
They didn't know about it. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And even once they're aware of it later on, they don't change their approach to the situations. It's still very dry.
They treat it like normal, yeah.
And that's when she starts, she calls Minogue, who's like, I don't know, 10 feet away. His back's to her at the time. So they're talking on the radio, kind of doing that goof at first. And he heads over to her and they go to like see what's going on. You see this demon again. That's probably the first time we get a good look at her face. And they ask like what her name is. And she says, Bazual, of the unholy realm. And again, like the way we said, she's writing it down like, all right, we got B, A. It's like, and again, Bazual of the holy realm.
I tried to look up if I know there's no real demons, but if that was like you know how there's like known demons.
Yeah, like
they
like,
made it up for the show. They just made it up for the show though.
It has that very Dr. Claw voice.
Yeah.
They cut over to like that kind of talking head style side interview of the two of them. And they say as members of the New Zealand police force, it's their job to support those in need. That's probably the first time I think we'd be aware that it's New Zealand, correct? Yeah. It's very early in the episode.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know much about Wellington. This is me being dumb. I just assumed it was like a British show until I found out otherwise.
I thought New Zealand was part of Australia until an embarrassingly late stage in my life.
They're not far off, but
they are
different.
though. Like I feel like one or the other would get upset being referred to as the other.
Right.
You know?
I feel like that would probably be someone on that end assuming that Canada and the US were like one and the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small place too.
Regionally, they're closest, bro. Yeah. They're like same area.
Yeah, they're not very far like on the map from one another.
I mean, New Zealand is about as far away as you can get from anything, which is crazy.
Yes. Is that where all the hobbits live?
I think so, yeah.
That is where they filmed The Lord of the Rings.
And it cuts back to like them talking to this girl and getting information down. And you just see her grab Minogue and just toss him like that kind of supernatural style, like, you know.
Yeah.
Like she has, you know, superhuman strength because it's not like she just tosses him and he pushes over. It's like, you know, a large lift
he gets
into
launched,
the air.
Yeah, this is like wire work, like stunts.
And you got he's calling over the radio like officer down. And he's just thrown. He's not injured. And and then you get O'Leary, officer down, and then officer back up. Yeah, it's probably a bit uncalled for.
Yeah,
probably have to call that one.
Officer back up. Yeah.
From there we see that shot like where they're in the car. It's kind of that lipstick camera style where it's like the two shot where it looks like security cameras in the car. It doesn't look like it's being filmed television style. And they're reporting and calling it in like, oh, we have a juvenile female for drunk and disorderly. And it cuts and you see her in the back and it's that like blue light on her with her hair flowing with wind.
Yeah.
And it's that really extreme demon type paranormal. Like it's the fact that they're not picking up on it at this point. That there's
they kind of did because he goes, hey, can we turn the aircon down in the back? And she's like, it's not even on. So he noticed that the wind was blowing her hair.
But the light, they're not even going to catch the light in that moment.
No. I expected her to start projectile vomiting through that cage and just cover them.
So, and from there we get into like the actual intro of the show. And I don't know if you guys picked up on this. It was, it's one of those shows that there's a lot of like cuts to news clippings and paranormal stuff. And there's like a kind of a dramatic music playing over it. But the thing I thought was super interesting about it was if the world of this show was real, because Minogue, O'Leary, and the sergeant, they're all listed as like Officer O'Leary, Officer Minogue, Sergeant Mako, whatever, and not their actual full names. And I'm like, wait, why is that how the intro is going?
I thought that was so weird too. Also, apparently those, I checked the IMDb trivia for this. It has 3 entries in total, one of which is the name thing that Ferg had brought up. And one of the other ones is those news clippings apparently change every episode.
Oh, okay.
In the intro, so that's kind of interesting.
Interesting and unnecessary, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's cool, but like that's so much extra work for them to have to create fake news clips for quick like cutaway scenes that if you're binge watching the show, you're probably not watching the intro after the first episode.
It is weird though that they do their character names in the intro, like because you don't see that.
Well, their character names are their real names.
Yeah, right.
All you do is that the officer.
So I thought that was weird at first, and then I'm reading back and I'm looking at the cast names. I'm like, oh, that's their real names. That's why it looked that way. So then I go back and watch it again, and that's when I see that it says Officer O'Leary, Officer Minogue, because they're not using their first names. So like, this is so strange that it's that way, but I guess whatever. If they wanted to be credited that way, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, it's funny too. It's just basically like an upbeat X-Files parody, like the way the
Yes.
intro works.
Yep.
Such a catchy song and all.
After the intro, we get to like the briefing room that's like in the actual headquarters of the police station. And that's when we meet Sergeant Maka for the first time. He's doing kind of like a briefing. He has all the other cops are sitting at desks and watching him, and he's about to do kind of a quick presentation and briefing with everybody. And one of the first things he mentions is that they caught a vandal who is defacing property, and the guy drew like a dick on the wall or wherever it was. So their resolve, instead of painting over it, was to just paint over it, like add to it so it looks like a smiley face now. So the dick was just a long nose.
So this instantly brought me back to when we were in high school. We were hanging out at your house, and you drew a giant dick on one of your brother's school projects.
I don't even remember doing that.
Your mother flipped out on you, so to make it up to him, you turned the dick into a dick jester.
That sounds about right.
The dick into a jester hat.
The one project Chris did in school, Jay defaced it for some reason. This will teach him. Just try. Why would you do that?
That was the same day that Chris couldn't beat Glass Joe.
Oh my god, that day that would go down in infamy.
In Punch Out.
Yeah, I was like, to catch people up, Punch Out. For those of you who haven't played the original Mike Tyson's Punch Out, Glass Joe was the first guy that you would face. And he was impossible to lose by, unless you're my brother.
Got knocked out by Glass Joe.
But yeah, I don't remember. I mean, I remember elements. You saying the gesture hat thing, I remember parts of that, but I don't remember all the specifics.
Why is there a gesture on your project of the solar system that doesn't track?
It's just one of those memories. I remember it like shot for shot, like it's a movie.
But yeah, so that's a similar situation here where they've turned the dick into a goofy cartoon face. And they did blur it until it turns into the face. But I mean,
still at the head of the dick.
Yeah, it's like once they cut it to they add the eyes, which are the balls. Like you still get a good look. You understand what it was. The neck.
I was gonna say, even when they blurred it, they blurred the balls and left the head of the dick on.
Yeah, I was gonna say they didn't even blur the whole thing.
The next thing in the briefing is that 5 of the 7 pairs of trousers that went missing at the Blakefield menswear were retrieved. And then he says, "Well done, Stevenson and Parker," but I guess Stevenson's not even there. He cuts to Parker and he's like, "Wait, are you wearing the uniform pants?" And then you see that he's wearing one of the pairs of pants that they retrieved. And I always felt like there's probably a lot of that goes on, right? In police work when you're...
No, the funniest part about this scene is he goes, "Well, where's Stevenson today?" And he can't come up with something, so he goes, he's selling pants." Like how he couldn't show up to work because he was selling one pair of pants.
I was going to say, yeah, the way it worked out is that each of them took a pair each and returned the rest. And apparently he's just going to sell his on his day off.
I'm sure stealing pants is like the least egregious thing some cops do as far as theft goes.
Especially when you're like, there's a big haul, like you find $20,000. It's like, well, if we return $18,000, it's still a good haul, right?
You know what's interesting too, though, is the population of New Zealand in total is like just slightly over 5 million. For comparison, New York City is 8 million. So they're policing a place that's probably, geographically speaking, I have no idea. I assume it's larger than New York City, though, New Zealand. So I wonder how many, how much stuff is really going on in New Zealand that, how does the police force really...
Apparently there's demons everywhere.
That's true. That does add
I guess you have to consider how much, what areas are heavily populated, and there might be a lot of, farmland and things like that.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Again, the hobbits live in a specific area, so that takes
live in the Shire.
All I know is that those movies were filmed there. Other than that, any Hobbit-related reference will go straight over my head. That's all I know.
I'm usually into that sci-fi stuff and,
fantasy.
Mythical fantasy. I tried watching the first Lord of the Rings twice and fell asleep both times. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I made the mistake of watching the director's cut. You think the original's long?
It had 4 hours.
Shit. Yeah, man. And then, you watch one, you got to finish and watch the others. So
I tried
Whole
to
day.
watch them. I'm like, this is really drawn out. I just couldn't get through them. So yeah, going back to the whole thing with the briefing, after the pants thing comes up, Sergeant Maka says to Minogue and O'Leary, like, hey, I want to talk to you guys when we're all done here about your report. So it cuts over and they're walking down to this office, like secret office that he has. And they get to the door and he's like, oh, I have a special PIN number for it. And you hear just him hit one number and Minogue goes 5. He's like, they say like, Sarge, you should probably have like more digits in your PIN. He's like, what, like PIN numbers? And he's like, yeah, no, there's more numbers. Hold on. And he just goes, beep, beep, beep. He's like
they have a 1 in 10 chance of figuring this out. You know that, right?
And I like that, like, Sergeant Mock is like a pretty big dude. So to see him like fake making light beep noises as he's doing it was really comical. But they get into the door and you see this whole paranormal room that he has set up. But it's not like in a lot of other shows where it's this like big, crazy paranormal division. It's this really tight office that's really messy and dark lit. And it's just kind of like files and paperwork everywhere. It's like a really small room. It's kind of like a hobby project.
What's funny about that, though, is usually like a hidden door is going to like reveal some sort of like at least like high tech or much larger room, and it's just a closet behind a shelf. It's like not interesting closet. At all. Yeah, this is where I do all my work. You just got folders everywhere,
protected by only the number 5, and also because like they asked too if other people have been in here because it's like this top secret thing, and when they find out no, they think it's this like special thing they're invited to. He's like, no, I've asked others. They just no one wants to come.
Because later on, there's another guy who really wants to join, but he hates him. I can't remember his name. So he just won't let him for no reason at all. So
the old Toby treatment.
He gets full-on Toby treatment.
Mika starts explaining like a little bit more about the division, and he just says basically like anything that's unusual and like kind of paranormal related, it gets filed into this area. He asks like, oh, do you guys believe in ghosts? And Minogue says like, not really. And he pulls up a drawing. He's like, my brother drew this when he was 10. He saw it in our bathroom. And it's like, it looks like, I don't know, like a skull head of a little, like a mouse in a suit. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It was almost like a skeleton, like a mouse skeleton in a suit and hat with a cane. I don't know if that's the proper way, if you guys remember it clearly, but it was the most bizarre photo.
Pretty accurate, yeah.
He finds his file that looks like it pertains to the case that they just reported. And he says, this report's from 1951. The felon spewed gallons of sulfuric vomit, smelling like eggs. And then there's another one from 1885 saying the lady spoke with a voice bystanders described of that as a coarse gentleman. She expelled fervent and copious bile. Its odor was that of sulfur. So they're saying that's exactly what happened to us. Like these two reports that were both from, 100 plus years ago for one of them and 70 years with the other one.
Wait, one was from the 1800s?
1885 and 1951.
Oh, I only remember the 1951 one for some reason.
They all have the same name, too. That's the other connection.
Yeah, right.
Bazual.
Bazual. Which also reminds me of Pazuzu from Exorcist, another reference.
Oh, that was Pazuzu.
Whatever.
But so now it's all starting to click, right? Because everything that they're just experiencing has been reported in years past. And they ask, are you joking with us? He's like, I don't joke. Outside of work, I have, an observational, absurdist sense of humor, sometimes even a little bit risque. But they're seeing that this Bazual thing is a link, and typically, in past cases, performs a human sacrifice at dawn. So obviously now they have to get into this because
figure it out before dawn, yeah.
Yeah, potential sacrifices on the way. And Minogue's like, maybe we're better off doing like the pants case. Like, can we just get on one of those ones and, retrieve something like that?
Yeah, he's not having it. He doesn't care about this stuff. He doesn't want to be part of it. He's a very minimum effort guy.
He even mentions that like it's actually my turn to get attacked by the police dog. So, let's go and go ahead with that one. From that scene, we cut to like the interrogation room where we see that girl and she starts doing that like spider walk, the Bray Wyatt. Yeah, I wanted to just call it the Bray Wyatt, but I'm assuming not everyone who listens to us is a wrestling fan, so it's that kind of like bent over, walking on your hands, but chest out
it's
to
that
the
thing
sky.
that fucking every Paranormal Activity movie that came out.
Yeah,
did.
you're on all
scare
fours. You're on all fours, but chest up.
It's the crab walk. They do it in the Exorcist when she goes down the stairs.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most famous scenes from it.
And you see the girl kind of walking up the wall of the interrogation room. It's just kind of like a spy shot, like the security camera in that room that you're seeing this happening. And then we cut to this shot of the two officers being interviewed, and they're saying how they got, drafted into this paranormal unit now. And that they're kind of like Mulder and Scully. And he says, she's like Scully because she's analytical and she's got the brains, and I'm a man with brown hair.
And I didn't know if this was him just not knowing how to describe Mulder, or if he just really thought that little of himself. He had no other attributes to share with him at all.
I really like that line. That one got me. And then I don't know where you guys fit with this. I wanted to look it up, but I forgot to. Because now they're getting into this debate where they say it's sort of a paranormal phenomena. And it's like, no, it's phenomenon. It's like, no, it's phenomena. And they're debating whether or not it has the N or not. Is there a difference between the two? I always say phenomenon, but I've heard both. And
So yeah,
I've always used it with the N.
It's exactly what I thought it was. It's just the difference between singular and plural. So if you're just talking about the one case that they're talking about, then it's a phenomenon. But if they're just a broad spectrum talking about all the stuff that happens, it's phenomena.
Oh, okay. As they're saying, I was like, I thought it was like maybe a tomato thing that they're just debating the same point back and forth.
Yeah, no, it's just a pluralized version. Because phenomenon, I would have said phenomenons. Like there's a lot of phenomenons, which,
This is just making me think of that Muppet thing the whole time.
Phenomena.
I just want to go like phenomena. To like end this awkward scene, he also mentions like another way that they're like Mulder and Scully is that they have a sort of sexual tension going on.
It doesn't get addressed at all verbally, but her face is just like,
yeah,
what?
It's like news to her, and she doesn't address it at all, and it just cuts away. And it never comes up later. There's no sign of sexual tension between these two at any point in time. So now we cut back to the interrogation room, and the girl's sitting there again, and again you have that like big blue light on her while her hair's flowing, and she has this demonic face on, and they go, she doesn't look well. She goes like, the dead shall rise from hell. They ask if she needs a lozenge.
I just love how like unfazed they are by this.
Yeah, at all times.
Obviously possessed girl. They're just like, she doesn't look good.
I know she's obviously possessed, but I'm sure like cops have seen some like people say some weird
wild
shit on drugs. Like,
yeah, just like they're just on meth or something like that. And
on like bath salts, like eat people's faces and shit.
But she's talking about how the dead shall rise and how there's going to be like buckets of blood and a fountain of fire. But at one point, Minogue goes to O'Leary's like, can you do the bad cop? She's kind of scaring me. And she just walks up and she's just like, hey, stop that. It's a bit scary. That's like her way to end it. But then the sergeant walks in and goes to approach her. And as soon as he says something, she's back to normal and just goes like, can I call my parents? And she seems really scared. So he cuts over to them and he's like, hey, what's going on? Like you said, this girl is possessed. She's clearly fine. As they're debating back and forth, and he's saying how she's just a normal teenage girl, she just bolts out. And then they start chasing her. And there's
I love this scene, the way it's shot with the thing.
It's like the security room, like 4 camera shot. So you see 4 separate security cameras showing like different hallways. And you see her like doing this really weird crawl walk through like a couple of the cameras. But then also at the same time, you see like through one, like there's a girl who's walking through a couple just unaware of anything going on, just like texting. But then she comes across a couple officers and like throws one against a wall. And then he's just like, just kind of ass over like for the remainder of that shot where he's just kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I found myself like I would watch her run, and I'd look to the next camera to see what they were doing, and then try to see what was gonna happen next.
It was an interesting way to do it for as long as they did it. Like like I could see like for a couple seconds maybe showing that security footage like view of it, but they did it for like a minute straight, which was interesting. They did it well too. So
it was one of those when I watched it the first time over. Like I tend to like when I can, I try to watch the episode without taking any notes and just enjoy it and get like my feeling on the show then. And then I try to do all my notes and deep dive. I didn't notice like the other stuff going on the first time I watched it, to be honest. It wasn't until I was rewatching and pausing that I got to see like all the other little things going on.
Now, did you guys notice like when it cut away from that right before she goes out the window, it blacked out randomly?
I didn't notice that at the time.
It was right before she jumps. She jumps through the window, and this whole screen just goes black for a second. And that was on the HBO Max version, not the version you normally put on.
Not sure I noticed that, but I could have just looked past it.
Yeah, I might have not thought anything of it at the time. I'd have to look back because I watched it on HBO Max the first time, and then when I did my notes, it's to be honest, like I said, we've said before, we keep everything saved in our drive so we can all have access to watching these episodes regardless of where we're at or what we're subscribed to. And that one I know is recorded off television, and I don't know if that one had that same cut. I'd have to look back. That's interesting. All I can
think of is they it was a pilot and they didn't have the budget for like a jumping out a glass window stunt.
That has to be what it is.
Went black.
Just a before and after.
But they could have cut to the reaction. There's a way around it. You don't have to show her jump, but yeah, that's essentially exactly what happens after that foreshot is her jumping out of the window. And that like hesitation, like, should we jump after her?
I love that she says that. Because usually the other one's the dumb one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're both.
They're both very dumb. Don't get me wrong, but she's the slightly more logical one. She's like, should we jump out?
And then I think ultimately they decide to take the stairs, and you cut to them in the car next, and they were talking about like how crazy it was, and she says to him, we say like she's the smarter of the two, but he was kind of a little bit more, I don't know, quick on this one because she's like, have you ever seen anything like this before? He's like, have I seen that before? Have I seen a teenage girl leap through a window and have light on her face blowing back in the wind? No, I haven't seen that. But then, like,
he proves his stupidity. Though,
well, then because it's like, it's pretty obvious what this is to me. And she goes, drugs. He's like, oh, I thought robot. Robot? Like, what on earth about this gave you robotic vibes?
I guess if the area does have drug problems, then I guess you could see the connection there. Like, oh, this is just some crazy meth head.
But a meth head's not going to survive jumping out of that window.
You never know. People on meth are pretty crazy.
Crazy shit happens until they come down, yeah. They have, like, superhuman strength. Angel Dust was like that, too.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I didn't go to Drug 101, you guys. Yeah.
It's like down in Florida when the whole bath salts thing came out. They were just like, ripping people out of cars and eating them. Shit. It's like it's a different breed.
I always wonder, I'm not a drug user myself, and especially not the crazy shit, but I don't even do the basics. But the idea of when do people just start going like, I get these bath salts, maybe I'll just try these and see what happens.
When they can't find the drugs they normally do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just start anything in your under your sink that you think might do the trick. It's just wild. I don't know. I can't get in the mindset, but I live a different life. So while they're in the car, they get a call over the radio to go to this house. And like, well, we're kind of busy. We're doing this big top secret thing. I'm like, well, you guys were asked for by name. So now they feel special about the situation. Like, oh, we'll head right over then. It's like, oh, should we hit the siren? Oh, of course for that.
Yeah. I love it though. They're so honored. They're like, hey, let's forget about this demon we're chasing.
Yeah, because they asked for us by name for what could be any small matter. But as we come to find out, it's all linked because they get to this house. And at first, this woman opens the door and she says, that her husband's acting weird. And that she locked him in the
crisis.
Yeah. And then she locked him in the garage. So they head in, and as she's going to take the two cops over to where her husband is, they pass by this portrait that's on the wall of the family. And then you see the woman who let them in, her husband, and then their daughter is the demon from earlier, obviously in non-demon form.
Right.
O'Leary goes to Minogue and she's like, do you see that? He's like, yeah, matching shirts. He's like, we should do that. She's like, we do that every day. Like, we're the same uniform. And then it's like, no, it's the same girl. It's like, oh, she looks a million times better in the photo, better than in person. She's like, you can't say that in front of her mom. And then we open the door and we just see the husband who's now also possessed. We come to find out that the demon hops, right, from person to person. But at this point,
right.
We just see that there's for all we know, could be a second demon. He's like standing on the ceiling and there's all these items from the pantry that are like floating around him as this is happening.
I don't know what Larry's line is. He's breaking the law of gravity.
But nonchalantly says it. Oh, he's breaking the law of gravity.
But just like how the cops play it off, the same thing with the wife.
Yeah.
He's opened the door and she's like, Gary, can you get down off the roof? The guy's
Everybody's
standing
very
on the
accepting
ceiling.
of this weird shit happening.
Yeah, he's standing upside down. It's not like he's standing on a roof. He's standing with his feet on the roof.
Yes, yeah.
See, this is very what we do in the shadows. The way they react to something that's very strange.
Right,
That
but
shit
it's already
happens.
established in what we do in the shadows that this, like, it's known that these, creatures exist. As far as we know, this is the first we're hearing of this stuff, and everybody's still just like, oh, whatever, yeah.
And then when this guy goes to talk, it's that same demon voice, and he recognizes Minogue and O'Leary and says, we meet again. He calls them by name. And then they're still not picking up on it, and they're like, no, I don't think so. Minogue's like, do you know him, O'Leary? She's like, do you play softball? He's like, I am Bazuel. And his wife's like, his name's Gary.
I mean, even when they leave, they still don't pick up on it. They're like, oh, well, we thought it was the same Bazuel, but apparently it's the daughter of Bazuel that we're looking for.
They got some catching up to do. This is new for them.
Yeah, you would think at some point, though, you've just been made aware of this demon situation, and regardless of, even if it wasn't the same exact one, you are now dealing with another demon on your hands. You should probably, oh no, our mission's to find the girl one, though, so it's like, you stay put.
Funny enough, too, I don't even think New Zealand police carry firearms. I think they only have tasers.
They don't. That comes out. They always just have the tasers. And
So they're woefully ill-equipped for this.
What do you shoot
Yeah,
a
but you
demon
can't just
with?
shoot it. You can't shoot a demon, right? You have to do the exorcism thing, right?
Well,
If
that's
have
how
a
you get
proton pack.
That's how you get the demon out. If it, push comes to shove, you might just have to kill it.
But do you kill the demon, or do you just kill the human, and then the demon
I think
can
you end up
travel?
just killing the human also.
Yeah.
But,
What if it's like the demon in Fallen, and you kill it, and it can just jump into the next person as long as it does it in a certain amount of time?
That's what I assume just all demons can do. My knowledge of demons is not great, but that makes sense to me.
It's like, well,
There's also, in this point, he's doing the exorcist like head twirl where his head goes completely around his body. And
His
again,
wife's
it's
like, I'm not rubbing your neck later. Stop.
yeah,
doing
like
that."
again, it's not even that he's spinning his head completely around, but she's that unfazed by it. It's weird. It's like there are shows where that kind of stupidity would bother me, but it doesn't bother me in this show. Like something about how it's dry delivered works for me.
yeah, they've already established that everyone in this world is pretty stupid.
Yeah, like the cops
the whole
being
world, like,
the cops being dumb, I'd be okay with. And then the wife being this dumb and oblivious to what's going on, I think in most cases would bother me. It doesn't bother me here though.
Well,
but most times it would have.
You know what I think it is with the wife specifically is it's not that she's dumb. It just seems like she's kind of always annoyed by Gary. And this is just like another thing that he's doing. And she's just like, oh my God, this fucking guy. So like, it's just, like another day in the life of this place. It just seems to be more paranormal than usual. She's
I like
just
when
sick
she-
of his shit.
She's yelling at him. She's like, you're 47. And Minogue's like, 47? Like, he looked impressed. Like, oh, you look good for 47.
Yeah.
When that happens, though, the demon, jumps from him to the wife who's behind them, which they don't notice. But you see her now with her face has been altered because she's in a demon state. And she kind of, gives, a glaring look at the two of them as she, walks off and leaves the room. And now we cut to Gary, who's no longer a demon. He's like, what am I doing on the fridge? We get back into the car, And just like you mentioned earlier, like, oh, it turns out that was a different Bazual. The original one was his daughter. Turns out this one seems to have calmed down, though. So, all is well. A bit of a win-win. And now they think, well, I guess we can go on now. Everything's safe. And then they're reflecting and they're talking like, all right, so like the father and daughter are both named Bazual and they both have superhuman strength and they both talked about fountains of fire. I don't know. I guess it runs in the family.
Yeah, they still just can't make this connection.
Yeah. But the running in the family is obviously to transition to them going, speaking of running in the family, and you look over and you see the wife who's now running alongside of the car and this very comedic walk. It was like fists up to the face like when she's running. It was very bizarre. It's funny though to watch.
And the O'Leary goes, we're doing 55 right now. And she's just keeping up with the car and goes past it.
Yeah, and eventually it turns into a foot pursuit. So they jump out of the car and they're trying to chase her through the park. And she does this like scaling up over the fence. And O'Leary's trying to do the same. And you kind of knew where it was going. She wasn't going to get over the fence. And she's just kind of standing up there. And like, she's like blaming like the fence at some point too. Thinking that like the fences have changed. I think that's what she says later on when we cut back to her.
She gives like a full explanation of what a fence is. She's like, man, once you get your footing and you just go up and over. She just can't do it.
She's like talking herself into it. Like, this is easy. You got this. And we cut to Minogue now chasing after her, telling her, you shouldn't be running in a playground. And then he has some questions. And he also says, you shouldn't be running in a playground in those Ugg boots. Specifically.
That was strange. That was what he was worried about.
It didn't hit me that you shouldn't be running in a playground. The one place you should run.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that either.
And I was wondering, I don't know if this was effects. I think they hired someone who does parkour to like do this 100%.
Stuff. That or the actor that plays the mom can actually do it. But I think it was just it was just like a stunt double.
Yeah,
they're
like,
definitely some sort of parkour person.
This looks like parkour. This doesn't look like special effects.
I just love, because the next part, it possesses a dog. But, like, the effect they do, he's clearly just, like, chasing a dog around. He's just a guy playing with a dog, but they're recording it. If you ever tried to catch a dog that doesn't want to get caught.
This is also the greatest line in this episode, because the demon dog goes, Minogue, your mother sucks cocks in hell, Minogue.
Which is another Exorcist line.
Is it?
Yeah. Your mother sucks dicks in hell.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I didn't even pick up on that at the time. Looking back now that you say it, like obviously there was a lot of exorcism stuff and the same kind of demon stuff. I didn't realize how much they pulled from the movie. But then the way she walks and all that, it's like they watched the exorcism and they just started taking notes, like the throwing up, the walk, suck dick in hell. Like a lot of stuff got pulled directly from that. Minogue, he says, "Stop talking, you freaky little dog." Again, he's fazed by the fact that it's a talking dog, but
it's not even
not
that
the paranormal aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just upset that a dog is stalking.
He goes, "I am Bazuel, I do as I please. There'll be buckets of blood, a fountain of fire," and he's just like, rah, 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 rah. And he walks off because he's still a dog. And that was right up there. Like that got a laugh out of me, like the little demonic dog barking as he ran off.
Yeah, I hate that Gordo's not here because he would have got a kick out.
I know that.
Yeah,
you know
Gordo
what's funny?
Love this show.
So when I was watching it the first time around, to peel back to you guys listening, I messaged in our group chat because we knew Gordo wasn't going to be able to attend today. I'm like, man, I wish you were going to be on this episode. You would have really liked the show. That was the specific point when I wrote it, was when that happened.
Really?
That was, and then we cut back to O'Leary, who's now stuck on the fence. Like she's in a point where she's just dangling.
It's almost like she
from
got
it.
wedgied on the pole.
Right. Yeah. It's that kind of visual where she's just kind of hanging there now.
Yeah, it's like getting run up the flagpole.
And she's talking to the camera because, again, this is shot like mockumentary style, so they acknowledge the cameras. And she's telling them, this usually doesn't happen to me. This is usually like Minogue kind of gets in these situations, not so much myself. But then she calls him for assistance, and he goes, You caught on the fence again, O'Leary? She's like,
I missed that, actually. I didn't hear that.
And then he goes, on my way. I think I need a hug. You know what he kind of gives me vibes of every once in a while is the dad in Modern Family. Once in a while. Like, not as strong. Every
Which
now and
dad?
again.
There's 4 of them.
I'm sorry. Phil? Is that his name? I'm sorry. I'm not as familiar with the
I
rest
could
of the
see
guys.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, like not a ton. Maybe because he looks a little similar to him, but I think a couple times with his deliveries, it gave me
it's just
that vibe a little bit.
The goofy, like, dumb responses that he always has.
We cut to the two of them back in the sergeant's little paranormal room at the station, and they're recapping. It's like, so a dog spoke to you? Yes, and it was very rude. And they're like, are you sure it wasn't one of those like little like internet dogs where someone's like behind him speaking? Like, oh, hello. And he's like, no, it wasn't that.
Are you sure the dog wasn't eating and there was a guy talking behind him?
Yeah. And he's like, no, it was saying that my mother does sexual stuff in hell. And mentions that like these guys recorded it, referring to the camera crew. And they do ask for the footage. And she goes, what, of his mom? like there's like actual footage of her sucking dicks in hell. And it's mentioned again that the dog said that his name was Baswell. The sergeant, again, this made me think of Gordo. He's like, I've been doing extensive research on Baswell. I Googled it. Turns out it means he who brings hell on earth.
That is when I actually Googled it to see if it was like a real
and it just was nothing.
And it's not. It's the only thing that comes up is stuff about this show.
Yeah.
It has a very, I guess the name is, for a bizarre name, like, sounds right. It sounds like it's of that world. So I could see you pulling that and how it would come off as like an actual name that they're using.
That's something that, like, I mean, if you're like writing this show or whatever, and you probably have to constantly come up with names that aren't names but need to be names.
Yeah.
Like, often.
It's like, we need a demon name that's not going to get us sued. Like, who owns what?
I wonder if they just use like a demon name generator. Hold on, let's see if I can find one of those. Let's start with Ferg. What's your demon name gonna be?
Are you typing it in as Ferg or as government name?
No, it just generates 10. I don't like this one. I wonder if there's a different one. Demon name, male and female demon name ideas. Okay, it's like Ferg. Would you like an ice demon, a fire demon, a biblical demon, or a standard demon?
What is a standard demon?
I don't know.
Your old run-of-the-mill demon.
You're just regular demon, yeah.
I'll go with a fire demon, because if I went with an ice, then the fire demons can kill me really easily.
Okay.
Sound logic.
All right, you are Cultifer, son of Bolfara. Cultifer.
I would have went Cultiferg.
All right, Jay, what kind of demon do you want? Ice, fire, biblical, standard, or any? I didn't even see that before. Any demon.
I'm going to go standard.
Okay, standard. You got a regular name. You are Darius. Darius, son of Abaddon.
Darius, son of Hootie.
I'll do the ice demon.
I'm gonna melt you.
I am Iskra, son of Salentum.
I like that.
Iskra. I forget what Ferg's was already. And then Darius.
I like that in true Ferg fashion, though. Just like how when he picks episodes, he only picks ones that he thinks will all pass, even though that's not the point of the show. No. When he picked his demon, he used actual logic, like, well, fire would beat ice, so I'm going to go with the fire demon. As if he's going to get into an actual
competition, man.
Yeah, like there's a real demon battle. Like he's going to be invited to like Mortal Kombat.
You never know.
That's true. What if?
I guess. I suppose so. Watch out, world. Darius is on the prowl.
Darius,
here
the
comes
demon.
Darius.
So, in the conversation, it's also revealed that, this isn't multiple demons with the same name. That obviously it's transferring from body to body, which I had to be explained to them. Like, they didn't understand that, but just so you guys know now. And the sergeant has a map out, and he's going over every time it transferred, like from spot to spot. And when that happens, it reveals like the pentagram type star, which again, they didn't acknowledge as that whole satanic pentagram. They're like, oh, it's like those stars we used to draw in primary school.
Everybody drew those too.
Those and the S's.
It was just like, oh, all those extra lines had me confused. And he's like, you mean the map lines? Like the actual lines for the map? So it's identified here that it's all centered around the Cuba Mall, and that in the mid-'60s, a group of Satanists based in Wellington had a shrine like in that area. And it was brought up how the dog kept talking about buckets of blood, a fountain of fire, and that there's a monument at that mall that's like 13 buckets. And it's supposed to represent the 13 chambers of hell, and that it's still there. So they go to head to that area. But I like this idea that a bunch of Satanists made this bucket monument to hell, and they just left it up. Like, it's just like, now it's just a fun little monument in the area.
They put some, they went to tear it down, and they were just like, well, it is nicely made. Yeah. We should just keep it here.
It's funny because it looks exactly like those things at water parks.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yep. And you wait forever for it to dump. And there's even like a joke about it in the episode. Like, like it's going to any second now.
That was I think that was my favorite part of the episode. It's happening like right now, isn't it? When they're like,
just about,
it's going to fall. It's now. They're all wrong.
We also, one little tidbit is that this is an actual thing that exists in that area. This little, it's not a monument in real life. It's like
bucket
whatever.
Fountain.
Yeah, a little art piece or whatever. But like this exists in real life in that
in Wellington
area. Yeah, like on Cuba Street. I believe it's actually on Cuba Street. I'm not sure, but it is in Wellington. And
neat.
But the explanation of it that like Satanists erected this near the mall and they just left it up makes so little sense. But for the purpose of the show, sure. So, but then it's like as you said, the whole tipping point where they're waiting for the bucket to finally go. I was actually a little disappointed. The scene of the bucket finally tipping and the blood pouring out was
very quick,
split second, a split second long. It was so fast. It's like they didn't buy enough fake blood for the bucket,
and the shot didn't go as planned, so they just had to use what they had.
They used a fraction of a second shot to show it.
Well, actually,
the bucket's small, so maybe it just doesn't take long to dump.
They really could only do that once, because the second the bucket spilled into the water was always going to be red. So
that's true.
Had to just get it in one shot.
And I take it as like this show probably had like a decent budget because they do some special effects, but probably not enough to reset like the fountain over and over and over again to get it just right.
Yeah, some of the effects are really like the demon effects are awesome. The portal to hell later is really awesome. It
makes sense knowing it's all for like the what we do in the shadows world. Yeah,
but it's like that's what blew my mind about them not having the effect of her jumping out the window. It's like, right. You spent everywhere else, you can't do it here.
Well, maybe that's why they were able to spend everywhere else.
Yeah, there's probably a budget on the episode too, and then when you cut like that cap, you probably have to figure out what scene can we get away with. Because I'm sure that same effect was like the same kind of when you throw the guy, and him flying through the air. It's like the same type of thing. So that's probably like just like a budgetary thing. And again, it's like coming off that What We Do in the Shadows world. It's a lot of those same types of effects. That show though, and I know this show is coming off the movie, even though it's all kind of canon. But the What We Do in the Shadows show that we did cover, I would say, looks like there's a little more budget on that one. Yeah. It's a little bit more crisp and refined, but they both came out around the same time, right? This one came out in 2018. I can't remember when What We Do in the Shadows first came out. What We Do in the Shadows, 2019. So this came out just a year before it.
Oh, I would have guessed after.
Yeah, it was kind of funny that this was the original like spin-off project that came off of it. But we see the dog again, and the dog is now kind of cuddled up with this homeless guy. And they weren't sure if it was the same dog at first, but I think it was, right? He didn't transfer from dog to dog, correct?
I don't think so.
I think it's the same dog.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The dog does reveal itself to be the demon again, because you hear like the Minogue. But I think it's funny that like the demon is obsessed with just him, right? Like after like
he seems to be focused on just Minogue.
He's just focused on Minogue the whole time.
It's because Minogue is clearly scared, so demons prey on fear.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess.
Because, yeah, O'Leary kind of gets nothing after a while, right? Chases after him for a bit, and now it's just Minogue. Maybe it's just because, like, it sounds better. Like, when they record, it's like, Minogue. It just sounds more like, than, like, O'Leary. It just doesn't have that same vibe. So, like, just keep saying Minogue.
The house bunny. Elliot.
Anthony. I don't know, Nick, have you seen The House Bunny with Anna Faris?
If I have, it's been a really long time.
The movie's okay, but the funniest part of it is every time she meets someone for the first time, she has to say their name in like a demonic type voice to remember it. So like she's this like Playboy looking, playmate blonde girl. And then someone will be like, oh, like my name's Nick. And she just goes, Nick, like every time. And it's just like, it was one of the funnier parts in the movie. But to go back, they're, now they see the demon dog is back. And he goes like, you're a bad dog. You're a naughty little dirty mouth dog. He goes to like chase after the dog and gets him, but it's kind of too late because what we've come to find out is when he walks back with the dog is already back to regular dog form because now Bazual has entered the homeless man and he's like holding him up. And that's like, they're like, we need to perform an exorcism. He's like, do you know how to do that? And it cuts over to
it's just like anything
YouTube
else
video.
in the world. Like everybody does this.
YouTubing it on the phone now, and they're just going like step by step. Like, are there things, I guess to pivot, things you guys can think of that now, like when you're performing tasks, that you have to just YouTube to figure out what to do?
Did it very
Everything.
Recently, actually. Yeah, aside from everything. It's I was having a crazy hard time figuring out how to fold long sleeve shirts. And I was like, there has to be an easier way to do this. And there's 400 ways to do it, apparently, on YouTube. So I just picked the easiest one and went with that.
That's how I learned how to tie a tie was through YouTube.
Anything I buy that I have to assemble myself rather than read the directions, I watch YouTube videos of other people doing it and follow them.
Why not? It's always easier to have like visual representation of how to do something. It's also like YouTube ended up being like your dad almost, like, but it knows how to do everything. You know what I mean?
It was, I remember I am the least handy person in the world, right? Like, I'm not a fix-it guy. I'll work at my job and then pay someone who knows how to do it with the money I made at my job. I had to change like a light fixture on the ceiling, just like replace it, like not like do the electric work, but just doing that, I felt like the most accomplished man ever after watching a YouTube video. And it's just like, a couple screws and the wire. It's just like doing a light switch, right? You just twist a couple wires and everything's fine. Yeah.
I do it with cooking a lot too. Those rare times I cook, but
I get so frustrated with the videos that are, it's always like the top view of like those tasty videos used to always do. They used to pop up on like Instagram all the time. And it makes everything look so simple. But it's taking away all the prep time.
That's what drives me nuts about cooking videos. It's like, so first of all, I would like to plug Matty Matheson because it is, I don't know if you're familiar with him at all, but it is the most true to form cooking show. He's like 6 cooking shows. They're all like different names and stuff like that, but they're all the same thing. It's the most true to form because what I hate about cooking shows is how they don't properly show you the mess that you have to clean up in between each step. And the prep work that leads. It's like, oh, you need an onion, tomato, rice, what I mean? Everything's just ready and they put it together. And it's like, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to see the whole thing. And when you watch Matty Matheson, you get the whole thing. He fucks everything up. He makes a mess. So it just feels like this is what you can really expect from this recipe as far as, how it goes.
Yeah, every time I watch one of those videos, it's like the most intricate thing, but they make it look so overly simplified, and then you try to do it in real life, and you're like, this fucking sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're taking the same approach towards an exorcism, because why not, right? How else are you going to figure out how to do it? And they're watching some priest, like, holding up. It's like, oh, so you need your crucifix? They're like, yep, check. A holy Bible and some duct tape.
What was the duct tape for?
I don't know. I don't think they used it.
I was going to say, I don't think they ended up using it.
I think that was just parroting like one of the videos we just talked about. They always need duct tape or something like that, like a plumber's tape or anything like that.
And while they're like looking at everything, this is when Minogue's like, hey, this is pretty urgent. And you look over and the fountain is full of fire now. It's like, you're going to hell, Minogue. So, and as you'd expect, all they have to do is hold up this Bible and the crucifix and say, the power of Christ compels you. So if you were to tell me I had to figure out how to do it without having any of these tools, that's basically what I would have assumed. Kind of surprised they didn't need any holy water. Don't you usually have to splash a little holy water?
I think it's one of those things that helps, holy water. But you don't need it.
But his phone starts buffering in the middle of the video, so they don't know how to finish.
Sorry, it's buffering.
It's like, sorry, I'm on prepay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and apparently it's this, like, I guess you just have to say it 3 times. But while they're doing it, that other officer, Parker, the one who stole the pants, eventually shows up. And he's trying to talk to Minogue because Minogue's like, why me? Again, we said, like, it looks like it really focused on him. And Parker's like, well, I mean, they always sacrifice virgins. Are you a virgin? He's like, no. He's like, sorry, I don't know your sexual history. I don't know. And then O'Leary's like, well, I've never seen any of his girlfriends, so he might actually be a virgin.
Yeah, I love how nonchalant that was. He might actually be a virgin.
So to pull back the curtain a little, he is a virgin, but he doesn't know what the word virgin means, which you find out in a way later episode.
That's a bizarre way around it. I can understand like him being a virgin and that not coming out right away, but the idea of him not knowing the meaning of the word, being an adult who lives in normal society, it seems very strange.
The show's like really good with continuity like that. Like stuff that happens in like every episode will pop up later, and like even if it's like a main thing of the episode. Like,
what we do in the shadows the same way.
Yeah.
And after the whole power of Christ compels you thing a few times, it does eventually work. And when the guy falls to the ground, the homeless guy, they go to arrest him at first, and the sergeant's like, wait. It's like, he's fine. Like, he's just a guy. He was possessed. The demon's gone. I guess, like, it wouldn't have worked now because all the police stuff over the last few years, but, like, you kind of wish they got a little rowdy with him first, but I could see how that would not fare well if they had extended on that scene, I guess.
Right. And they're not American cops, so.
Yeah.
This was before all that.
Well, not all of it, but I guess the most recent. We won't get into it all, but yeah.
They also don't have guns. I mean,
that's true, yeah.
They could have tased them. It would have been funny if they tased him and he fell into the fountain, creating the sacrifice, which released the demon, but...
Yeah, they could have did something with that. They could have kind of made it full circle. But I think as soon as he fell to the ground, the fiery fountain turned back to water, right?
Yeah.
It did, yeah.
And then you cut back over, and you get like the 2-shot again of the 2 main officers just doing their interview. And like, oh, well, we're not really too sure what happened tonight, but looks like everything's, solved now. And they thought maybe there was some illegal drug in the water supply, so they still not, they think
They're
maybe
not
it's
sold on
not,
the demon thing, yeah.
But one does say like, or it was paranormal phenomenon. So then, and O'Leary adds like, if you do suspect that a friend or a colleague or anyone has been taken over by a demon from hell, now you know what to do, and call it in quickly. And anytime there's gates to hell, really, yeah, like never a good sign. And we cut over to the sergeant who's with Parker, and he's talking about that this incident pretty much highlighted that there is a need for the special unit of the New Zealand Police Force. These types of cases that have no worldly explanation. And as he's saying that, you can see Parker next to him has been possessed by Baswell. But the sergeant doesn't notice that he's possessed, and he's just still talking to him normal, because I think he's still kind of focused on the camera. And he says to Parker, like, oh, you're in luck. I'm off the clock in a few minutes. You might catch one of those legendary jokes. And Baswell laughs, and he goes, I haven't even told the joke yet. And that was the conclusion of the episode.
Yeah, it's pretty, rapid fire, exciting. They got through a lot quick, I feel like, in this episode, almost to a fault, if you ask me. Yeah,
it was one of those, I say this all the time, and to, again, appeal back to you guys listening, I feel like every week, as our episodes seem to get longer and longer, I keep telling these guys, like, oh, I think this will be a quick one. This one I knew we were going to get through real fast.
Yeah.
This is like in half the time some of our other episodes, because it's all just action. It's all, just a lot of movement and...
Not a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, it's just quick. Everything's moving pretty fast and straightforward. So there's, I don't know, but I think it makes it an easy watch in a lot of ways. It's kind of like one of those shows that you can, I don't want to say not pay attention while you watch, but you don't have to be like overly fixated. There's a lot of little jokes you'll miss if you're not hardcore watching it. Like I said, even rewatching it, I caught a couple little things, but it's certainly an easy watch.
I'd say they have a very good combination of physical comedy and like just like actual jokes too. You said there's a lot of action, but then the dialogue is really funny too, and it's the combination of the two which really gets me. It's why I like the show. It's my sense of humor.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, we covered it. I'm almost shocked because we got through it so fast that I feel like,
weird.
I feel like what else is there to talk about? But we hit it all. I guess the product of a straightforward show in a 3-man booth.
I'm glad I'm editing this one.
Yeah, lucky for you this week. So yeah, that being said,
Gordo gets the 4-hour Cheers.
I know he's doing Cheers right now, which is like an eternity for those of you
guys. Go back and listen to Cheers if you haven't already. It's one of the longer ones, but it's
it was
good.
a longer episode, but a good episode nonetheless. So definitely check out Cheers if you haven't already.
Do it for Gordo.
I feel, again, to break the fourth wall, I would find it very surprising if this was the show that you found us on, because I don't know how hardcore of a fan base Wellington Paranormal has, but I guess we'll find out. But this was a show that, to go back, until you recommended it, I never even heard of it. So I don't know how popular it really got. But it's a pretty straightforward, good show, and to know that like a show like the What We Do in the Shadows show lasted as long as it did, or is still continuing to go on. You think this would have a little more fanfare, but it's not an American show, and it still did get 4 seasons out of it. So
it got hurt. It got hurt by COVID. It went into a long hiatus because of it. This is why season 3 and 4 came out recently.
Yeah,
even though the show came out before What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that it did come out when it came out, because I have, never even heard of this show. So the fact that it's a spinoff of a very popular show that I have heard of, and I still never heard of this show, it surprised me.
But yeah, no, I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I just, it's just surprising, I guess, at the end of the day. But I think we pretty much covered it, so there's really nothing left for us to do, guys. Again, we only have 3 out of 5, so there's a potential that you'll have to go to S1E1 Pod on Instagram to catch the final vote, because we don't know one way or another. I have a feeling it's not going to come down to it, but either way, go to S1E1 Pod if you're not following us on Instagram already. You really should be doing that by now, guys. The thing's been up since we started the show. So give us a follow there. And on
you're
Twitter.
New, then you get the pass.
Yeah, if you're new, then welcome. Now go follow us on Instagram. But we do put out content multiple times a week. There's plenty to go along with these videos. We have videos accompanying each episode and other things that come out with it. So give us a follow there if you haven't. But yeah, to not drag it on much longer than we need to, we'll just get into this green light or cancel. Ferg, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, green light. I love this style of humor, but I love the supernatural anyway. So what We Do in the Shadows is one of my favorite shows, and I love the movie. So, I mean, spin off of that, same sense of humor. I like the effects, and it was enough that I actually did continue. So that's usually my main thing. Do I want to see the next episode? I did, and I watched the next episode. So, yeah, easy green light.
Nick.
So, I struggled with this one, honestly. At the end of the day, I am going to greenlight it. It's a pretty soft greenlight, though, if you ask me. I enjoyed it. I think, and the reason I ended up leaning greenlight is because I realized my potential to cancel relied heavily on What We Do in the Shadows. And What We Do in the Shadows just felt like a more full-bodied version of the show. I felt like Wellington Paranormal was missing something. It was funny and it was, interesting, but I just felt like it was a little bit generic. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but once I removed my thoughts about What We Do in the Shadows, I realized this is definitely a green light, and there is enough here to make me want to watch a second episode, and I think I actually will. But if I'm taking into account what we do in the shadows, I think what we do in the shadows is just leaps better than this show. I hope that this show gets better, and I bet it does. Once it gets its footing, and I'm sure you get introduced to more characters and stuff like that,
and the budget goes way up.
So. Yeah, right. So, well, sure. But as this pilot stands, it's a very soft green light for me right now because I wasn't blown away by it, but I can see where the potential lies, maybe, and for that reason, it gets the green light.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going with you guys too with a green light. I'll be completely honest. When we were going over names of shows that we wanted to cover for October, and Ferg first brought this up, without knowing anything of it, I don't know what my initial perception of what this show is going to be. I thought it was going to be like a dated timepiece, like an older, like something about, I guess just the name Wellington makes me think old. And I don't know what it was, but I went in thinking it was something it completely wasn't.
Like beef Wellington. It's just that old steak.
Yeah. So it was something like that. And I just was like, whatever, we'll cover it. We need paranormal shows to cover anyways. There's only so many, right? Every year we're going to do 4. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And, after watching it and seeing what kind of show it was and that cops style mockumentary thing, like I got a laugh out of it. And I'm not a big sci-fi paranormal guy, but, this one got a few laughs out of me. I really like the way the characters were. I feel like a show like this has limitations. It went 4 seasons, and I don't know how long you could have really milked something like this for. That being said, the X-Files went on for a while, so
it's
I guess
done, right? This show, or is it still?
Yeah,
ongoing?
4 seasons was it. Okay. Almost went 5.
The last season just came out.
So they were
recently.
Yeah, they were close to a 5th season. I guess it was like on the table for a while, and then there was a little pause, and they ultimately just decided to wrap it up. So I don't know. I don't know if it ends on a cliffhanger or anything like that. It doesn't seem like one of those types of shows, but I guess
I'll let
you never know
when I finish, because I'm in the last season now.
But so for me, ultimately, it's just going to be a green light. I enjoyed watching it, and I could see myself just kind of keeping it on and watching a few more episodes, and that's ultimately all I really want out of it. All that being said, that's already 3 green lights, so regardless of Gordo and Joe's votes, we're going to go ahead and green light it either way. So congratulations to Wellington Paranormal. You do pass with us. That being said, thanks guys for listening. Again, go to S1E1pod.com. That's going to give you all the links to all our socials, everywhere we can listen and follow. Please do that. Rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Interact with us. We love it. People keep hitting us up more and more. So I guess I have to keep reminding you each week because the more I say it, the more we're getting them. And it is nice to hear from you guys. And keep it up. We do appreciate it. And we take, again, all your suggestions to heart. We do discuss all those episodes. And we plan kind of far ahead. So it's not that we're ignoring those ideas. They are on the table. So we will get to some of those in due time. That being said, it's all the time we have for this week. Tune in again next week for episode 2 of our Halloween-themed October, spooky, whatever. We don't have an official name for what we do. So catch us again next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Goodbye.
I think we got the best BJ in hell.
Minogue.